Hello, this presentation is one of a series of nuggets mined from Polk County history. It is brought to you by the Polk County Historical Society. These short historical vignettes are prepared from material in the Society's library, which is housed at the Polk County Museum, which is on the south side of the Polk County Fairgrounds. Our presenter is Polk County historian, author, and longtime Historical Society member, Scott MacArthur.
Polk County is a long ways from the Deep South, but there is a history of slavery here in Polk County that not many people know much about. Nathaniel Ford and his family came to Oregon in 1844 from Missouri. In addition to his wife and 3 children, Ford brought with him Polly Holmes, Robin Holmes, and their 3 children. They were slaves. They were Nathaniel Ford's property under the laws of the state of Missouri. The Ford claim is located at Rickreall. The cabin was right to what today is the southwest corner of the stoplight at the Highway 99W, which runs north and south through Rickreall. The Holmes family remained as slaves even though the laws of the Oregon Provisional Government, which were in effect at the time, and the laws of Congress, which had created Oregon Territory in 1849, would have allowed them their freedom at any time. Now, Nathaniel Ford gave Robin and Polly Holmes their freedom in 1850 it was. Apparently, he made a verbal agreement with the parents that Ford would keep the couple's 3 children as wards until each of them became of age. And Nathaniel Ford later said that his reason for doing this was that because the parents were ignorant and they were poor and were unable to properly feed and clothe the children. Early in 1852, Robin and Polly Holmes decided they wanted their kids back. Ford told them he was willing to give them up, but he told the Holmes that if they wanted to do that, if they wanted the children back, they'd have to go to court in order to do it. Well, they did. And the records of the case are today in the county courthouse over at Dallas, Polk County Courthouse. This wound up being quite a case. It settled the issue as to whether or not the laws of the United States controlled slave property in the territories. It also resolved the slavery question, which is a very important one when the Oregon Constitution was drafted in 1857. Slavery was an issue in the Oregon Territory. The judge in this case was George Williams. Now, George Williams was the Chief Justice of the Territorial Supreme Court. He and the other 2 Supreme Court judges spent part of their time riding circuit around the state, going from county to county and acting as trial judges. Polk County was in Judge Williams' circuit. Now, let me show you a couple of photographs. We found they relate to the Ford family at Rickreall. These photographs are in the Historical Society's photo library at Rickreall. The first is a photograph of Nathaniel Ford and his 3 children. This was taken sometime in the 1840s. Nathaniel Ford's wife does not appear in this photo. We have a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Ford that was taken many years later. That photo will appear in another story that we're going to be able to give you dealing with the history of postal service in Polk County. The second is a photograph taken of the original Ford family 2-room cabin that was built when the Fords made their claim at Rickreall. Now, Oregonians all knew that Oregon would become a state one day. They knew that the issue of slavery would come up when the state constitution was drafted. And there was a tenuous balance between the pro-slave and the anti-slave folks in Congress, and that soon was going to result in a civil war. Judge Williams, in his trial at Dallas, ruled that the children were not slaves, but that they should be given back to the custody of their parents. And this case, this Polk County case, turned the tide in Oregon against the slavery issue. Many of the early Oregon settlers, you see, were from border states where slavery was a burning issue. A lot of them felt the best solution to the issue of slavery was to render it moot. They figured there wasn't a slavery issue to be decided if there were no persons in Oregon who might be held to be slaves. So they tried in a rather cumbersome manner to exclude Negroes from the Oregon Territory. The early settlers of Oregon in 1844 enacted a statute that required that any slave owner who brought a slave into the Oregon Territory from back east was required to remove that slave within 3 years. Free Negroes who came to Oregon were required to leave within 2 years of their arrival. If they did not leave, then they were to be publicly flogged by the constable once every 6 months until they removed themselves. This statute was never enforced. Several months later, it was replaced by another statute. This one said that the Negroes who remained would be put out to hire at the highest bidder, who was required to remove the Negro from the territory. This was never enforced either.